broadcasting a new paradigm on the One Network.
At this pivotal time of humanity's evolution, we are beginning to remember our organic technology. A technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of the people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective experience moment to moment. We invite you to join us as we reawaken this technology through experiment and experience our power to create and manifest.
Hello and welcome again everyone to the Collective Imagination this week. We do have something a little different for you. We have a conversation with Lily and we'll get into who she is and what she's sharing in a minute. But first, welcome Brian.
Thank you, Lisa. Nice to talk to you, Lily, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Andy.
Hi everyone.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Dee, and thank you, Brian.
Hi, Dee.
Hi, Lily, and everyone else.
Hello,
I'm definitely looking forward to listening to what Lily has to tell us.
Okay, to tell a little bit here, I received an email a couple of weeks ago, maybe even 3 or 4 weeks ago now, that was very intriguing. Lily presented the opportunity to ask her some questions on subjects that have been very interesting to me for a long, long time. And also shared that this information hasn't been shared before. So, that's a carrot I couldn't refuse. So, welcome Lily to the Collective Imagination Show. It's a pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you, everybody, and hello. I am really happy to be here and have this conversation with you, Lisa, with Dee, and Brian as well.
Well, the honour's ours, so thank you for joining us. And I just we don't know much about you at all, other than your name, Lily. And so for us and those watching and listening, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and also answer that question of where the information comes from that you're going to be sharing?
Okay. So my name is Lily. I live in America right now and lived in America for quite a bit. I had a very interesting life, but I'm not going to go into that because at this point right now, who I am is I represent the planet Earth herself. And later on explain the differences between the planet and her soul level and the astral levels that we have here, then it will make a lot more sense of what it means to be a part of this planet. The reason why I'm not going to personalize this information is because it does not belong to me personally. It belongs to the planet and to those that are with the planet and have an exact same blueprint as the planet has. So that's why I'm not, and at this point, because there is not that many of people that have an exact blueprint like the planet does on the planet today, it's kind of difficult to personalize that because there's nothing personal about it.
So how do you come by the information then?
The information actually started coming after we moved into a planetary timeline. After the astral timelines had hit a dead end on December 21st of 2012.
Okay, so can we just clarify that a little bit? What's an astral timeline?
Okay, maybe before I answer that, I need to go into how do we end up with these astral levels and what exactly those astral levels are and why they're here and all of that stuff. And then we can kind of move from that and see the difference between the astral level and the planetary timeline level. Does that make sense?
It does, but I realise we just kind of skipped over the previous question, which is how you came by the information. So it only sort of started coming out.
So the information comes directly from a planetary soul level.
So you receive it directly in a form of.
It comes through the center of my being. It comes through the cellular level. And it comes as because it comes through the center and not through the pineal gland, it comes through the center of the being. It comes, so before it hits any other body, like a physical body or a mental body, it hits first your emotional body. And so that's how you just feel that information. It just comes from inside of you. And it doesn't come in words or anything or in any mental type of communication. It comes in the feeling. Then it's like you would drop a rock into a water. You just kind of, sense the wave out. At the same time, it hits your mental body and your physical body at the same time. But first it comes through the center.
So hang on, before you move on, Dee just made the comment, sounds like what we call icons. But can you make the definition or the distinction between what you're explaining and what people perceive as channeling?
Okay. The channeling comes usually through a mental body.
Uh-huh.
And because channeling and that information comes through the souls that was seated through the pineal gland. And what happens is, if your soul is seated in the pineal gland, it is stationed in the mental body.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, but it doesn't always, even if it's seated in your pineal, it doesn't mean that it has to stay there. This is actually a process of healing the soul is moving from pineal gland into a center.
Okay, so let's go back and you can start to explain what you were going to explain in regards to the astral levels.
Yeah, I will go back to that because right now it won't make a lot of sense until I tell about the planetary mission and what the planet is, what's her energetic blueprint is.
Okay.
And why. And then that because as a people here, as internets here, we have exact same blueprint as the planet.
Right.
The chakra systems, the mental body and the emotional body and the physical body. So we all have that. We're copies of the planet, energetically speaking. So what I wanted to do first is actually go to a second question, and that would be the planet Earth and what is her purpose and mission.
Mm-hmm.
So before I go into that, I have to kind of go back all the way to a Big Bang. to explain how we end up with the earth the way it is, energetically speaking. There is an internal creation, which is absolutely huge. Internal creation is not a light creation, all right? It does not have a light frequency. What we have in here, and I would refer this to that graph that I sent you, and it says light creation cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And if you guys can pull that up, that'd probably be easier for you to see it.
Yep.
But internal creation externalizes itself. And light creation is one of those external creations. It's like an internal creation taking a breath out. And this is how little the light creation is in comparison to the whole internal creation. It's like one breath out of that whole internal creation. When that happens, that's the Big Bang. An internal creation externalizes itself, and this is when we have, in our situation here, in our light creation universe, this is what we have. Then we start breaking into multidimensional self, which is, it's 15 because of 3. So the first 3 is 3 flame of creations, then it's avatar level, then over soul level, and the physical incarnation. This is our multidimensional self.
And we exist throughout these dimensions? These light realms?
There is actually a 15, but the first 3, the 15, 14, and 13, they're like 3 flames of creation. They're not physical at all. So those are just the first separation, because light creation is mathematical, and it's a creation of separation, and it's dual in its nature. So from the first breath out, from the first externalizing in light creation, what happens is it's dual right from the beginning, because light creation is dual in its nature.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? What happens is this is, and so we have this, light creation is huge, but in comparison to internal creation, it's like one breath, like I said. So, but it's huge, and we can only imagine, how much creation there is, there's so much out there. And it comes to the point in light creation, because light, it's external breath. When internal creation takes a breath out, it's got to take a breath in. So there is a return path into internal creation that happens with all external creation, including light creation.
And we don't go back the way we came, right?
Yes, because this is how internal creation experiencing and growing by externalizing itself. So, but we have to come back into internal creation. And what internal creation does is it sets up kind of like a healing and transformation centers, and this is our whole solar system. Our whole Milky Way is that rehab center for return. So what happened is we have a whole bunch of creation that's multidimensional, and when they get to a physical incarnation, there is a time when the light creation ends. We see stars dying in the sky every day. So that's light creation coming to its end, or it has transformed and it's moved into internal creation frequency. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. And just trying to equate it to a language that we've come to learn and use, as well as
I'm
those.
trying to use the terms that a lot of people are familiar with.
Well,
So,
what I'm equating what you're saying is the internal creation in our language would be what we call the absolute, with an absolute plan. And what you're calling the light creation would be the divine and its own divine plan.
It is a divine plan, and it is dual from the very beginning. You
Yes.
have to
Yes.
make sure
That
they
is the
understand
divine
that.
That is absolutely the divine plan.
Absolutely the divine plan.
Okay.
Separation in duality.
I just
It is
wanted
divine plan.
I just wanted
But
to
a
make
lot
that
of
for
people
those
call
listening.
source as internal creation, but there's a lot of miscommunication with words in spiritual communities because they call source as light, but actually here, if you call internal creation as source, it's not light.
Yeah.
So it's not light creation. So it's a whole different frequency, and it's not dual in its nature. That's about all I can tell, because there's no words that can explain what internal creation is.
Yes.
Our language is severely crippled. We know
Yes.
this.
The languages are absolutely crippled, and especially English. English is the worst.
Yes, especially English.
And I have a very good friend of mine that specializes sort of in the languages and has so much research on that. It's incredible on languages. So I don't know much. I have always been able to feel the words and that always was telling me that the words are always wrong. They're not used properly. They're flipped and twisted, and it's just. And I can later go into a few of those that are really just easy to recognize how it is reversed frequency. And the reason for that is because I'm going to go to the point in here why we have reversed frequency here.
Lily, real quick before you do that, can I just ask you one question?
Sure.
You said in your email to Lisa that I read as well that the information that you have to share has never been, it's new and it's never been shared before. And I'm wondering why all of a sudden you're inspired to come out now. If this is information that you've been receiving internally since 2012, where did the new inspiration?
I actually started receiving this in 2010, but because of the way the free will is here and what actually did happen in December of 2012, if I were to speak of this before then, I would be infringing on free will. And the planet and people that have the blueprint exactly like planets, that's the last thing we want to do, is infringe on anybody's free will. And this is why. And then what happened in 2012. And Brian, I will come back to your question because I need to first explain what happened in December of 2012. And the reason why there is just because everybody was in shock and there was really no point in talking about it. Even still now, I think it's a little bit too early to talk about this because this is so different from everything what people used to in spiritual community that they will definitely reject it. I do expect people to reject this information at first. Just like with everything else, first people reject it and then whatever. And then I have a timeline for some people, some groups, some collectives that will start accepting this information. But I will have to come back to it, Brian, to explain a little bit more in detail.
No problem. Go ahead, Lily.
So when light creation gets to a point where it has to make a return, because what happens is internal creation externalizes it as a part of its own internal creation and externalizes. So there's a limited lifespan. I mean, it's billions and billions and billions of years. But when the time comes to where that is done, pretty much, there is a return. And for that return path, there is internal creation has places like our Milky Way that has both frequency, internal and external, to where the soul can come into a physical form and actually transform back into internal creation. So it kind of like walks backwards. And that's why it has to be in physical form, because what happens is it goes all the way down to soul level, incarnates into the physical form, and then this only soul in the physical form can only transform that whole multidimensional self. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So this is what happens here. And when it comes to our planet Earth here, our planet Earth is that rehab center mainly for main 7 dragon races. This is its purpose. And so when that happens, the planet has both frequency, internal frequency and external light frequency in here. What happens is there is a band of frequency that's matching whatever race is going to be rehabilitating here. It is inserted in between 3rd and 4th dimension, and it is connected astrologically. In light creation, you can travel from point A to point B, and so this is all connected through the portals. And so all the way from whatever the dragons are in the universe, they have portals by which they come to a planet Earth. And they come first into the moon. Sun, when they come to our solar system, it's through the sun, and then to the moon. Moon is the pineal gland of our planet. Because our planetary body has exactly the same body as us. So they incarnate through the moon. So when people like David Icke talk about moon matrix, this is what they mean. This is an astral level incarnates that are here.
Just a question on the moon. Are you saying it is an organic being or an artificial construct?
What I call inorganic is the light creation, because it is external and it has an expiration date.
But is it an artificial creation, or
is it a construct?
It is actually. It's not a scary thing. It's inorganic. People say it's not. It's just. It's an external creation, and it's not like something that internal creation doesn't like. Internal creation, in fact, that's how it expands, by externalizing itself. So light is just one part of it. But I've for a few years now, I call that as inorganic because it is disconnected from internal creation.
I think what she's asking, Lily, is especially David Icke has put out a lot of this information talking about how the moon is essentially a ship that is brought in as like a viewing station to keep an eye on the Earth, and that there's this whole activity on the dark side of the moon theory. And so what we're asking is if it was manufactured, if that's what you mean by an external creation, or if so it's not natural, essentially.
It was brought in here just the same way the astral levels are brought in here. They're inserted in here for the rehabilitation purposes.
Uh-huh.
Otherwise, if the planet would not be able to incarnate, and none of these races that are incarnated through astral levels wouldn't be able to come in and incarnate here to heal the soul, to transform that soul, because it works like a magnet. When you travel in light creation, it works like a magnet. You have to have a matching frequency to bilocate somewhere. If your frequency don't match, you'll never go in there. You can't get in.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why the astral levels have to be inserted. And at the same time, the moon was brought in here.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
So it's not like the planet doesn't want it or anything. I will get to it why the planet accepted all this, and that's her whole plan was to have this.
Okay.
So it's not like the moon is such a scary place. It is what it is, because without it, the souls would not be able to bilocate in here.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay.
So can we get?
So should I continue?
Please continue. I'd like to get back to the December 2012 issue.
So this is what our planet. Now I'm gonna refer to the astral levels graph. The 7 levels. There are main levels 7. Those are all draconian. We do have 5 Anunnaki races here, but Anunnaki races are a little bit tricky, and I'll tell you why. Because Anunnaki races used to have this whole solar system before the draconian races. The Anunnaki races used to have this whole solar system as their biogenesis program, which I call biogenesis is the transformation into back, so it's the path back into internal creation, the healing of the soul, the transformation, and this is actually also a lot of people call it a biogenesis program. Mm-hmm. So it used to be, and then so some of their frequency are still here in our solar system. But once the draconian races were brought in here, and the astral levels were put in place in between 3rd and 4D, and the moon was brought in, it was all for draconian. But the Anunnaki wanted to get on this too, and so there is 5 races that are Anunnaki frequency. But I will go a little bit into that when we get to the question, who are these 12 main races? Okay? Because Anunnaki actually, to incarnate on the planet, they have to take on a draconian frequency. And I will go into that later.
Okay.
So the astral levels, and this is what I'm going to talk about. The astral levels are a matching frequency to 7 main draconian frequencies. Okay? They're like the bands of frequency that are put around our planet. And the moon is the portal to what the beings come into astral levels. From astral levels, they incarnate into physical body of the planet. Our physical body of the planet has that ratio of 33.3% organic, meaning internal creation frequency. And then 66.6% is life creation frequency. This is why our planet has this mixed frequencies. It's all for the reason of bioregenerating all those races. The astral levels have 97.6% light frequency and only 3.3% of organic frequency. And they're inserted between 3rd and 4th dimension. Okay? The moon has the same ratio, 3.33 and 96.6. Okay. So what happens is with that, when all of that is set up as like a rehabilitation center, souls come into astral level, and they're a full soul, they're a complete soul. But before they incarnate into the planet, because the planetary body has that, and our physical body will have exact same ratios. So it's 1/3 and 2/3. Okay, the whole light creation soul is 100%. Okay, it's 3/3. This is when people incarnate into twin souls, because the soul has to split in two. Because I'm going to give you a very simple example. You have a bottle of water that's 1 liter. And then you have 2 empty bottles, that one is 1/3 of a liter and the other one is 2/3. So the soul, you can't pour that whole liter into one. So you can't, you have to split that, the whole water, so it covers. So the whole soul can only come into a planetary body by splitting And it splits actually into exact same ratio, 33, like 1/3 and 2/3. So, and then the male has 1/3 of its soul blueprint incarnated in the body, and the female has 2/3. This is where the twinning of the souls happens. It actually happens in astral levels.
Mm-hmm.
For the purpose of healing the soul. Does that make sense? Because if you try to incarnate a full soul, 100% of your soul blueprint, into a body that doesn't have, only has 66% matching frequency,
okay.
it will implode.
Okay.
It will not be able to incarnate.
Yep. Now I understand.
Because it's really just a math, you know. Light creation is math.
Mm-hmm.
It's mathematical. And it's dual, you know. So that's what it is. It's just simple math here. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. What we have, because of what we have in astral levels, we have the same ratios of incarnates. So the incarnates on the planet represent our mental planetary mental body. Okay? So I'm going to refer to the humans on the planet graph. And I'm going to go into a little bit about who Earthlings are and who are the alien races, as I call them.
Yeah.
Good.
So the Earthlings are a little bit different, and when they come in here, and this is going to sound a little scary because a lot of people enter into astral levels, and instead of transforming into internal creation, they do harvest frequency, an internal creation frequency for their home planets to go at another cycle in light creation. And so a lot of people that incarnate here are actually harvesting that frequency.
Good.
But it's not a scary thing because internal creation, in fact, supports that in a way because, it lives through that. And if a light creators find a way how to extend their cycle, it's okay with internal creation. So, what I'm going to tell, it might sound a little bit scary and negative, but it really isn't. It's just what it is. So when what we have on from the 100% of the people that are incarnated on the planet, just same exact ratios that astral level has. 3.3% Earthlings. These are the people that do not have an alien soul. They are born exactly just like a planet. They incarnate their soul with the first cell. They incarnate up to 33% of their soul, and the rest of their soul staying with the planetary soul level. And there is really, nothing else to say about them. They're just...
there is a question.
About this,
there's a question that I have then in regards to this when it comes to, say, reincarnation. What happens to one of the Earthlings once they leave this physical body? What's the difference between that and what happens to one of the others?
They go back to a soul level of this planet,
Which
is an internal creation frequency. It's not exactly internal creation. It's like a mix of things. It's like a transforming. That's why the Earthlings will not have memories, any visual memories in between lives.
So they're on some kind of treadmill of just incarnating and reincarnating on the planet.
They're incarnating. They're facilitating this transformation. They most of the time they don't even know who they are. They're just they're very neutral. They'll never get into the duality. The duality is a little bit difficult on them. So these are what they call. They will not be attached to any stargates. They will not reincarnate through stargates like the astral beings would, because they incarnate through the center of the planet, and they go out through the center of the planet. And they're because the internal creation is not dual in nature, there's no any kind of hierarchy or anything, so we're just become one and equal with all.
So how would someone ascertain whether they are earthling or here for regeneration or here for harvest?
It's hard to know if you're an earthling, because I'll tell you why. This is what the planet does. Earthlings is her real children, the ones she gave birth to.
Right.
And then all the alien races, it's her adopted children. Mm. And like in everyday life, we see that when people adopt children, they put so much attention on building a relationship and building the mother-child bond with an adopted child, that the real child is just kind of, just there. and a lot of the times people that have been in that situation, they say, my mom always paid attention to adopted children, and never to me, because the bond is always there. The planet was very busy. She had a lot of adopted children. And what she wanted to do is give them love and give them what they came here to do, which is transform their soul. So that's why the planet has been really busy with all the adopted children. And the earthlings were kind of just there. They're what I also call a gypsy souls, because they will never have a physical location that they will be attached to. And not all gypsy people have gypsy soul. So that's just, what I call, because they're not attached to any stargates or anything. They're just, the whole planet is their home.
Lily, you just described everyone in this room.
Exactly.
And it's not just
but
the three of us.
Is, if you're still looking at that, humans on the planet, what happened is, all these alien races, when they come in, 96.7% of people on the planet are those races. They're Draconian and Anunnaki. And that's okay. Some people are afraid of that. The planet is really doing this for these races because they're absolutely beautiful. And she wants to do everything possible to make a return. Mm-hmm. So they are part of internal creation. And internal creation doesn't want anything more than to bring back this beautiful creation, which is light creation. So many different light creations.
I'm having an aha moment. When I first started this show, and I wrote the bio for it, I wrote the tagline, "He's become part of the 3%."
That's funny.
Holy moly!
That is kind of humorous.
Lily, I have a quick question. Why is it? So much of this is. I'm not going to lie. It's just completely over my head, and that's okay.
Okay.
When it comes down to a lot of these percentages and stuff, why would this be relevant to the average Joe Schmo? How could this information be used to support our own our own individual growth or soul evolution?
Because we're gonna come to in how we can move people from timelines into a planetary timeline, and that's what is gonna be.
She said, "We're gonna." Sorry, you're cracking up a little bit, but I'm pretty sure what you said was we're going to get to a point where we're going to talk about how we help people get out of the astral and into the planetary timeline.
Where we need to bring a lot of the people that are still on their not bring them, but allow them and help them. So this information will help them to move from astral timelines into a planetary timeline.
Uh-huh. So of these ones who come here to harvest,
the 96.7% of alien races, out of that, 10% are entering into actually doing the transformation.
Yeah.
And so that's becoming basically one with the planet, and just becoming that gypsy soul.
Now, Lily, is that a conscious choice or is that an unconscious choice?
It is actually a soul level choice, and honestly, it's not a mental choice. It was never, not even subconscious. It goes to beyond that, because as soon as this collectives enter into biogenesis planet, they split into two choices that they go right away. 90% out of those people go into harvesting quantum. And
gotcha. Yeah. So they use both positive and negative, your light workers, angels, and Brian just changed the page on me for some reason.
Thank you,
while I was
Okay.
reading it.
I'm trying to get to the harvesting question.
can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. So I'm back to that, and so now what we have, and I don't know if you guys heard this before, but a lot of whistleblowers talk about how governments always worry about 15% of the population that is not mind controlled, that they can't mind control.
Yeah.
Those are the 10% of bioregenerated healed souls, because what happens is they're actually become a center station, and they move out of a pineal. And so when you operate from the center, you can't, no matter what they throw in your mind, your soul's not stationed there. So they can't mind control you.
Yeah. They
So
can't get a
that's
grip.
why, when those government whistleblowers talk about that 85% is fine, they can mind control them either positive or negative way. It's either way, it works for them. But this is and so most of those people, so it leaves with 85% of the people on this planet that enter into harvesting souls. What that means is it's not really a taking a whole soul. What happens is they accumulate this internal frequency, and then essentially, and again, I don't want to scare anybody, you guys, because this is not a horrible thing. Internal creation allows for this harvest to happen. What happens is any internal creation frequency that a person accumulates, it actually ascends through a Merkaba vehicle, through portals, back into whatever their home is, and this is what ascension is. Is basically some of that organic quanta gets grabbed by Merkaba field, and that's what it goes through the portals. And the reason why it only can happen, the harvest can only happen once in a while, we just had December 2012 was the 5th and last harvest on this planet. And so this is what the ascension was. It was just a portion of the soul frequency that was organic, got moved and bilocated back into whatever race was doing that.
Can I just clarify? Can I just clarify
how their own races they harvest their own.
Yeah, I just want to sort of recap what I think you just said to make sure I'm absolutely clear. That the importance of 2012 and all of the prophecies and the calendars and everything that pointed to 2012 were about ascension. That was ascension. It was a harvest, the 5th and final harvest on this planet, where all of that internal creation energy was harvested back to the races that have been incarnating here in order to extend light creation for another cycle, which is all part of what we would call the absolute plan.
Yes. That's what it was. But
That
it's
actually makes
not like
sense.
a horrible thing. The only thing is right now is that because the positive side and the negative side, and if you ever read that channeling law 1, it really openly from the 1980s talked about the positive and the negative harvest. And later on, that change into ascension, you know. And everybody, if you really look at people that teach ascension, the Merkaba field is essential to their teaching.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, that's true.
Very much so.
Because it is a vehicle to transport, and it even talks in the Bible how it is a vehicle to transport your soul. But what it doesn't say, that it only transports part of your soul. Because when when all these races enter into here to harvest, what they follow is to follow divine will, because light frequency doesn't have a free will, light creation. And I know it's like everything opposite, and this is the problem that happens with all the spiritual teachings. They kind of do things in opposite, and they say in opposite things. That, you know, some spiritual teachers out there say that divine will equals free will, but it's not.
No.
Because light creation is very structural, and it's hierarchical.
Yep.
And so it's just impossible to have free will.
No.
What gives free will is
the
internal frequency. And so you have only free will, little bit in astral level, tiny bit, and a little bit more in your emotional and physical body. And so they come here, and they follow divine will, which meaning they follow their higher self. The higher self had entered, there's beings that enter into a self-sacrifice path. The harvesting path is self-sacrifice. You know, that's why we hear a lot about that self-sacrifice. What means that the soul enters with the intention to gather as much internal frequency and ascend that frequency through portals back to their home.
Yep, got it.
The harvest happens, and I sent you some more graphs. If you look at the personal energy field with chakras and your mental and emotional and physical body, and then you see that portal, there is connection of positive and negative that all comes into the center, and that this is the portal through the heart chakra that actually that Merkaba field moves. And so when you turn sideways, my drawing there, you will see that it looks like a Jewish candle.
It must be different diagrams.
Yeah, there it is. Look, yeah, the dreidel.
Yeah.
Because all the religion, everything, and the spiritual teachings are all about that harvest.
The chakra system itself is a harvesting tool.
Yes, it is, because it's stargates, and this is why you need stargates, the portals, to harvest. And what happened is, before Atlantis, we had our astral levels aligned. The stargates were aligned with the planetary body, physical body. So that's why you hear that the gods were able to come and be here and all of that stuff, because those stargates were open, and they were able to harvest a physical body of the planet. And that's what Atlantis was. It was a physical harvest of the planet. That was the previous harvest. Atlantis was the harvest before this one that we had in 2012.
Atlantis was the fourth harvest.
Fourth, yes.
And what?
And after that, when that really created a lot of problems for the planet. And internal creation has always in plan something that it will never allow for somebody who's harvesting to overdo it. It only needs 10% of that collective to transform their soul to cover their whole blueprint. So that's why 10%, and exactly this is what, after this harvest, the planet did exactly what it intended to do. So the 10% of those people have been bioregenerated, and they are going to be exactly like a planet, and they'll stay with the planet. Because when you know that Michael Tessarian talks about the quarantine, we have a double quarantine after Atlantis. Because what happens is certain astrological alignments allow for souls to bilocate into our astral level, and then they close.
Lily,
movement.
Lily, I don't mean to interrupt, but before you go any further, can you take a minute and describe what you mean by harvesting? And the reason why I ask is because a lot of the people that listen to this shows, they've heard us talk about energy harvesting for a while now. And, you know, when we talk about it, we're referring to, you know, the money system and, you know, people working and the labor and harvesting on the kind of planetary level with the 13 families and the Illuminati and all that kind of harvesting. Can you describe what you mean by the harvesting that you're talking about that happened in December and back during the time of Atlantis?
She has.
No.
They're harvesting all the spiritual teachings and all the ascension was the ascension teaching was the positive side. And then the negative side was the, you know, the dark, the all the negative things that were happening.
I understand that. Yeah, I know. I understand.
She's talking about spiritual energy that gets the how can I put it?
Why the reasons for the cycles of time with Atlantis and December? I'm just trying to connect the dots.
The Atlantis, what happened in Atlantis, because they did went too far, and they did. Pretty much what they did is, if you want to go a little bit more into details, what happened in Atlantis, there was a portal that was connecting directly into that into the planet. And when they did with the crystals, what they do is crystals actually can separate and hold the internal frequency. So what they did is they dig really deep and planted a lot of crystals that were brought from their home planets. Okay, I'm talking about Anunnaki and Draconian planets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they put those crystals, and when they activated those crystals, it actually imploded and took that whole. It's pretty much the whole continent, a physical body. The reason it was very successful because the stargates were open to this planet.
So
and then when they did that, they had a really good harvest.
Yeah.
And that created a lot of problems for the planet. So because deep in the planet, when you look at a planet has, for physical body, has 33% of that internal frequency. The closest to that comes on the planet is the matter.
Okay,
So
Lily.
When you read about dark matter, you'll know at least first that it's not light. But
Lily,
they don't really there is no words to explain what it is.
Lily,
This is what
can you
they're
hear me?
after.
Can you hear me?
I didn't hear you. Sorry.
That's okay. I just want to put this into my words so that I know that I'm understanding you correctly. I'm going to say internal creation. I'm going to use the word source. And actually, that's probably it. So of these alien races that come here, they need 10% to gather, accumulate, source energy, which they get directly from the planet and from being here.
Yes.
That 10%, if they go through that process correctly and successfully, they take on the planet's blueprint. But of the ones who come here to harvest, they are here and they also accumulate this source energy via the planet. Up until Atlantis, they were able to harvest it directly from the planet.
Yes.
Until they overdid it. And now they have to physically incarnate on the planet and absorb it through the physical body, so to speak, and then take it.
Yes.
And that's how they harvest now.
Because we watched the videos that you sent to us, and the tilt of the Earth, it made a lot of sense. When the Earth tilted the 23.5%, it knocked basically the stargates don't align anymore. So they physically cannot take it up. They must come here and incarnate here in order to harvest that energy.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes. this is why we don't see much of, and we read about that people that go into space, they go to the moon and they see all the ships and everything that's over there, light creation, all this, inorganic stuff, and the moon is inorganic and it has ships all over it. But there's barely anything here in our on our physical level of the planet. Once in a while, somebody gets through, but it's very little holes here and there because of that tilt. That tilt had closed all the stargates. And I don't know if you guys know much about Ashaya Nadine, but she worked for 12 years to reopen those stargates, because then they would have a much better harvest, and that would have to tilt the planet back and realign the stargates. And a lot of people in spiritual community were working the grids to realign. There was even, a call to people to actually talk and expect, that movement of the cross. And that was all. And these people, they're not, I don't want people to think that I'm all against this light workers and people that did their job. They follow orders.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. No. We've actually discussed that quite a bit recently, and the fact of the people doing the work are coming from the biggest part of their hearts. They're just trying to do the best they can. They're doing everything, what really moves them. The fact that the
good intentions, very sincere.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's all part of internal creation anyway. So
but
it's
in
all
the
part
end,
of the absolute plan, right?
Yeah, they might be following the controllers following the divine plan, but it's still part of the absolute plan anyways. It all comes around.
Yes.
Regardless of what team they think they're playing on.
I have a question though.
It's going to be a little bit difficult for those spiritual teachers once 2017 comes, and I'll go into that. But a lot of people are going to be unhappy with them. But I don't know if you guys.
Oh, they're already unhappy with us just for saying it. Trust me. You should see the emails I get.
Okay, I do have one more question while we're on the subject of Atlantis, though.
I'll tell you, when I hear that people are getting upset and angry at somebody about something, I get very excited about it because it means a really good thing. Yep. But I'll get back to that.
Okay, Lily, before we move on, I just have one question about Atlantis again. Does that mean that up to the point of the destruction of Atlantis and the portal moving, who occupied the planet then? Was it 100% Earthlings?
It was the same races.
They were still here.
Here for a long time.
Was it also in the same percentages as well, even then?
Yes, even then. And this is how it was. The only difference was the portals were open and they could, the oversoul level, so your angels or your demigods and all of them, they could come to a physical planet and manifest on the planet.
Okay, I'm with you.
In their soul form. So, and they on that time, and I got to go back a little bit to draconian races in Anunnaki. Anunnaki are kind of tricky because they take a piggyback ride on draconian frequency into here, but because they take on draconian frequency, and in addition to that, they have their own frequency now, so they have a bigger range, and they usually would enslave the dragon part of themselves. You will see, I mean, there's testimonies from people from a few years ago where they say, well, I am this angel and I do have a dragon or reptilian that is attached to me. That's an Anunnaki soul.
Right.
And they say, but I control it. So that's an Anunnaki soul. And to understand the Anunnaki frequency, maybe we can refer to that piano keys that I sent you, because this is the sounds we have here on the planet, and it really explains very well, how our astral level goes. Because each of those frequencies have a sound to them, and our planet has the sound. So, and we start, with the white keys, and those are all dragon races. By the time they come to here, to the planet, we know them as dragons, okay? And then the black keys are Anunnaki. But the interesting thing, there's 5 of them actual frequency. But they do mix with both, like the first one mixed with red, and then they will mix with orange as well. So that's why they're a little bit tricky and difficult. There is more to it, but for now, I think that would be good to know that why Anunnaki frequencies is really tricky. And so they, in Atlantis, actually, they got the most out of that harvest, the physical planet harvest, because one of the planet, the Anunnaki planet that we knew as Nibiru, I guess, was pretty close, and they were able to get a lot of that internal frequency to that, which is a big ship, and so they were able to. That's where Atlantis ended up, if you want to say that. But and so that's what happened with the Atlantis, and so the planet then, not to have that again, it tilted itself at 23.4 degrees. And so because it changed that, the tilt had closed the stargates. Same thing happened with our bodies. This is why our heart is at exactly 23.5. It's actually 23.4 degree tilt.
Did it only happen with those who you would call Earthlings, or it happened to the whole...
Yeah.
Everyone.
It happened to that because the Earthlings, even though they have a different soul or they incarnate a little bit differently, they have exact same body. Earthlings will have a mental body that is still inorganic mostly, just like, there's going to be no difference, especially physical difference. There is no difference because it's a body, it's a temple. And then whatever you do, and the only difference is how they incarnate and how they operate. There's no secret that most people and Buddhist teaching, the Book of Dead, and every teaching you'll find on the planet will talk about how the soul enters into the body through the pineal at 7 weeks. You see, again, that's 7 because it's very important. And it only incarnates into the body when the pineal gland had been developed. I mean, you can find this in the regular medicine books, And it also, because of the twinning of the souls, at 7 weeks, you can also tell, after 7 weeks, you can tell if it's a boy or a girl, because it depends how much of the soul enters into the pineal. Remember that ratio? So, and then what happens is the soul is stationed in pineal, and it's controlled through that by the astral level. Because there is beings in astral level that also went on the higher self, that whole collectives that went into self-sacrifice path. And so they're there now. And so when I talk about the double quarantine, the portals that go from astral levels into their home worlds do close, and then they reopen as the universe moves, and then they reopen after a certain period. But there is another quarantine that happened after Atlantis. That's the planet physical body did, and so that closed the portals, stargates. And we look at all what government does and everything. They've been trying to work those portals, and people the light workers. I feel like I'm being negative, but light workers did a lot of that grid work, tried to reopen those stargates without understanding what it means. Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people, after they read that Law 1, wanted to be harvested. you know, most people, most religious people are still wanted to be harvested. Look at all Christianity. That's all they want to be, is to be harvested.
Yeah.
Because that's their mission, and that's okay. Because right now, what happened now, and if you remember, so we lived on this astral timelines, because it was mostly for harvesters, and so everything they were trying to do is to harvest, harvest, harvest. And I don't know if you know, but Hashem admitted that Islam, it only got 900,000 years. That's nothing compared to how long the life creation can exist. Because of that closing of the
Sorry, Lily, we just missed what you said. Ashiana Dean said something.
She said that because she represents this 12 races that's harvesting, and she's harvesting in a positive way. She's the leader for them to harvest in a positive way. And she talks for them, so she talks for her masters. And the masters told her that they got 900 years extension, only 900 year cycle from the planet. So it's very little compared to the previous harvest.
Okay.
And it's all because it's all because of that physical body of the planet is closed the stargates, and the only thing is available, and the only thing they harvested is the personal souls. And they couldn't touch the planetary emotional body or physical body. And they tried, but that's okay. They can try. It's great, be all creative the way they are. They get really creative, and it's okay. And it's okay with the planet, because planet has so much love for all these races. That's her children, and she wants to create that bond with all of them. She wants to take in everybody. But if they choose to harvest her energy instead of transforming with her, then that's their choice, because the planet will always honor a free will choice. She had always honored people's choices. And even now, where we are right now, the astral timelines have ended.
Yeah, can you explain that a bit more?
If you remember, David Goldhoff were talking about, he had a group of people where they were trying to look into timelines, and he said, I remember, he said something that they just end. Yeah. They all end on December 20th, 12th.
Yeah.
They couldn't look past them.
And that's because, yeah, absolutely. And that was all because those astral timelines, they were looking at astral timelines, right?
The astral timelines ended. Right. All right. And right now, because people feel like they're still living in astral timelines, the reason for that is because they're kind of stuck there. They hit dead end, and they're just sitting there. Okay? And this is what happened. And if you want to refer to that, the process of moving from collectives from the astral timelines, there is kind of a process that started. This is more of a planetary information. You're not going to be able to get this from astral levels, because the astral levels right now are kind of frozen. The people are just stuck in there, and not a good place to be right now.
Why are they frozen? What caused that?
Because the timeline had ended. They just drove to a dead end.
So what happens to those souls that are stuck in the astral?
The souls that are stuck in there, if they don't reincarnate, they eventually will go space dust or implode. There is higher beings, higher dimensional beings that are stuck in there. Those are the ones that will be feeding a lot on the personal, on their collective that is incarnated here.
What?
So, and they feed mostly, and they try to feed on that emotional body, because, again, emotional body has a lot of internal frequency. And this is how they survive. they're pretty much cut off now because the portals have closed on the other side. Because once that got the ascension happened, when all those Merkaba fields took whatever they could and sent it off, then the time kept going, and those portals, they have closed. And so now these beings are stuck in astral.
I just wanted
without any connection, and the only ability they can feed is through the incarnates here.
What you're saying is, okay, it's an explanation for a lot of the work that we follow. So I want you to say this on mic.
Okay, so here's, because it was just kind of what you were just talking about, kind of brings a very big aha moment. Because what we're perceiving right now is those beings that you call, for example, trapped in those astral planes, is the desperation right now. They can't escape, but not only that, for example, one of their biggest harvesting tools is the financial system, which has been closed down, so they cannot harvest using that system anymore. So they can't harvest through that way. So one of the other things that we see is, of course, the same thing over and over again. That new financial system they've been trying to bring in is directly tied to, for example, the ships arriving and disclosure, etc., which would give them an opening to get out of where they are, and yet they can't, because it all ties in together, where it's like a locked door, and they can't get past it because they're trapped in those astral realms.
Yes. And they manipulate a lot, and this is all, they manipulate positive and the negative, because they know how to create in that. People on the planet have an illusion of positive and negative being separate, but it's not the case. And that illusion has to come down, and this is when it started. It started after the final harvest. The illusion, little by little, will have to come down, and people will start connecting. Those 15% of not mind-controlled people will start seeing the connections of positive and negative. It always plays off of each other. And so what they do is they manipulate. And it's a hierarchical. So the astral level beings, they have their slaves that, like people in the government, they're slaves. They have a master, and that keeps on going. And the highest masters are in astral right now. There is nothing beyond that. People, when they talk that they can go beyond, that's a lie, because you can't. It's impossible right now. There's no portals. The only way out of this planet right now. And those all that enter into self-sacrifice path, they sacrifice themselves. They will never go back home. They will only send part of themselves home. And then what happens here now on the planet, the incarnates, right now, the only thing they can do, and they will be made to do, is to feed the astral beings. Because imagine you are a being locked in a tight space, and all you have is just whatever you can grab with your hand out. This is pretty much what astral beings do. And how to feed, they're desperate. Yeah. They're desperate because their life is going to be with whatever they can feed from the planet. And then they will implode in astral levels. The whole astral levels will eventually implode. It will take hundreds and hundreds of years for this to happen. But they want to expand their astral life.
So is this why we're seeing the exponential rise in deaths suddenly?
But also the sacrifices. Like we're looking, there's a lot of in those that many perceive as being the darker, your cabal, your Illuminati, etc. We're seeing a massive amount of sacrifices being made, and I'm talking literal, physical human sacrifices are being made right now on a scale the likes of which we've never seen before. And that's, I assume that's a desperation attempt to try and get some of that energy, that harvesting,
to feed those
stuck in the astral realms.
Because those beings, and that includes positive beings, like the Christ, like the Archangel Michael, Like anyone who still channels can only channel from astral levels, because that's the only information that comes right now through channeling and through any kind of mental body channel. That's only comes from astral, everything. And you know, there's all these people will tell you that they go to a completely different universe and get their information from there. It's all manipulation.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it is. And it's all hierarchy.
Yes.
Which is the biggest indicator you have in all of these, whether you call it the good, the bad, the light, the dark. When you follow the hierarchy, you can see the controllers.
Yes. You can see, and then what you can also see when you start breaking down that illusion of separation, you will start to see how the positive affects how much negative can happen. You know, one thing that I said to one of my friends the other day, you know, we had been activating Merkaba fields on this planet for quite a few years, starting probably in 2007 and all the way to 2012. People have been activating their Merkaba field with all the best of intentions. And the negative side of that is right now, look at Israel. Look how much blood that Merkaba field on their flag has been shedding, a lot of blood. And I know if people don't want to hear that, but it's all connected. It's all connected. There is no illusion about it. And this is what's happening. We've activated that Merkaba field.
Okay,
how bloody is that flag is right now.
What I don't know. I think we're going to have to do this more than once. So
I do want to go a little bit into that good news.
Yeah, me too. And I want to go into the future of the planet.
A lot more to this, and that whole structure of harvesting right now. And so used to be harvesting for their home world. Now it's a harvesting for astral levels. But harvesting keeps on going, and it will go on. Okay? It will go on, and there's going to be probably even more. At this point, we probably have more wars than we ever had on this planet.
All right, let's get to the good news.
The good news is how we are actually moving, because when that final harvest happens, the planet went, it's done. And now the planet do what it really wanted to do, is to bring those people into her timeline, the planetary timeline, which is only one timeline. Because when you go with the planet and you rehabilitate your soul, you lose any kind of hierarchy. Everybody has the same equal value to her. There is nobody left. There's and even the earthlings, why they're not so special? Because they're not. Somebody who rehabilitated has a lot more, has the same value to the planet. Mm-hmm. So because she loves this being, I mean that's her baby that she is trying to bring back with her, bring them back home. So it's just, she gives a lot of love to us. And so now this process of coming off the astral timeline and coming to the planetary line, it's a process. It's a process that it's kind of like a collective healing process and acceptance. People have to accept that their soul been harvested. It's not the scariest thing, because the planet is standing right here with her open arms and saying, I just come to me, but it has to be a choice. She will never make anybody come onto her timeline. So when remember those talks about how all the timelines ended, and people that are stuck in there, they're in denial. The denial is emotion without emotion. This is why the collectives right now that are stuck in there, they're just kind of not going anywhere. They don't want anything. They're just kind of happy with what I call it a spiritual coma, because it's literally is just there is no movement in the personal energy field. There's nothing. And that's why none of us could talk about this before, because people just in denial. It's like, how are you going to communicate something to somebody who's in a coma? It's really not going to work. And only now, and I wrote that email to Lisa because for a long time now, I've been following Lisa, and I always had a feeling, and the planet gave me that feeling. One morning I woke up and I had a feeling that, okay, the greens are starting to wake up from that coma. And somebody has to talk to them and help them out in a way to where, that's the happy part when I say I am really happy when people go into anger and blame stage, because that means they're moving forward. When people go into that anger and blame stage, their energy moving, and this is when they're actually going to go into the planetary timeline.
If the anger and blame stage is followed by the bargaining stage, what does that stage look like?
Bargaining, well, because they're first. Okay, let's talk about some collectives. Okay, let's say it's a collective of green dracos, and they had their benevolent, I don't know what's the difference. To me, they feel the same. Aliens, that guided them. Or let's say Archangel Michael, At first, they're going to get upset with that. They're going to get really angry with those that lead them into that, with those that channel Archangel Michael. And they would say, I've seen this the other day on the internet. Somebody wrote an article, and they say, again, this channeling about light coming to this planet. And in the big letters, the person said, what planet are you talking about? Because, and I'm happy about that, because that means people are going into that stage. But the bargaining is going to be kind of when it settles down, they become angry, and there'll be a lot of people will be angry at the planet. Mm-hmm. The planet did something wrong, and they didn't ascend their whole body. But they never were going. Nobody who went on self-sacrifice path was not going back home. They were self-sacrifice, meaning the end. And this is why the people, put that cross right in their center, because they're smart. They're self-sacrifice. That means, in my home country, they used to say, whatever, if you're done with something like a relationship or something, you just say, I put a cross on it. That means that's it. No more coming back. You're not coming back. You're home. So what happens is then the bargaining would be, it would look like kind of like people would do meditation and prayers and all of that stuff to kind of like begging, let's say, Archangel Michael, and ask him a question, but can we still go back home?
Sounds like a measure of desperation.
It is.
Yes.
Definitely.
Because that's where bargaining is. It's kind of like, trying to say, okay, what if I change this? What if I completely, disregard this planet? How many times we've seen spiritual teachings and teachers that teach people to really hate the planet? Look at the religious people. They call her a prostitute and all of that stuff. There's groups of people, they say, let's get off this rock. Mm-hmm. This rock is giving you transformation. Yeah. She had loved you to the last second. But a lot of people, they have this very negative things to say about the planet. So they will blame planet, then they will bargain with their astral level beings. And that stage is going to go on for a while, because those astral beings will use that to feed.
Yes.
on that
Absolutely.
marking. So it's going to look like prayers and all that stuff because they need to put some emotions into it because that's how the astral beings speak. They need their emotional body.
Well, we're seeing this play out everywhere, from
Yes.
the fear porn that they're
Yes.
using to feed on the fear, the anger, the hate. So the wars, the terror, so-called terrorist attacks, all of these. But then you get it on what we would call the flip side, on the light side as well. When you have people, the channel messages, you have to raise your frequencies up to, contact us, and you have to send us these big global group meditations to, like you said, to open the portals, to align ourselves with whatever entity it is, and it's all a harvesting tool.
It's all fuel to feed the fire of separation.
Yes.
It is.
Yes.
So,
and this is the thing, the illusion of that separation has blinded a lot of people, and that's why they couldn't make the choice to let go of that, and they keep feeding these astral beings, because the whole Masonic order, or whatever, or Illuminati, or whatever, it's one order. The hierarchy is one hierarchy. They don't take competition. There is no competition for the hierarchy in astral levels, and it was here too. So it's all under one roof, sort of, and so the astral beings, they use both sides, and the positive side has to create that positive, because when you create in light, what do we usually create? At first comes positive and then the negative. And we can look back, and if you guys watch my videos, I do talk about that. If we can go back, we can actually see, but that it all is the positive and then the negative. There is a reverse creation, what you call, and this is people like people that are very against something, like, there is what's that guy name? I can't remember.
Can I just interject for a second? Because what you're saying is actually the distinct opposite of what Alf says, which is that it's out of darkness that comes light. You can only create light from darkness. You're saying the light comes first.
Yes. The positive has to come first.
Okay.
And a lot of times what we have here, like, how we had in America war on drugs, that brought more drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The war on cancer.
What happened is what I call a reverse creation. You were against drugs, so that's a positive creation. But then you kind of flip it, and all of your creative energy goes into negative. So it creates more negative. And the elite, they know that. They don't have illusion of those. They know exactly how creation works. That's why they really help all this, meditations and religion. That's why they support religion so much, including New Age religion. In fact, they train most of the spiritual teachers for New Age religion.
You got us all over here shaking our heads.
We're all nodding. We're all very, very much nodding.
In agreement.
It's just, when you bring down that illusion of separation and you see the connection, and instead of just being somewhere on the middle of that two dots, point A to point B being negative, what you need to do is bring those 2 points together, because that energy has one and same source, and it's controlled by a hierarchy. And the illusion right now, because we do live after the final harvest, we do live in revelation time. What is revelation? It's the bringing down of illusion of separation. And when that comes down, that becomes all open. And this is what they try to work really hard right now. So the soldiers here that are controlling those astral beings, like the presidents and all of that stuff, they're on lower rank, but they're still can do a lot of work. They are working really hard right now to keep that illusion of separation. And so you will see, like ISIS right now. It was created, and now we're fighting it. It was created by same people, and now, so that illusion is spinning down. People can see the connection, that it's one and same source. And now they're the enemy, so we gotta fight them.
Lily,
but it was created by the same people.
Would you say that for somebody that's out there listening to this, that wants to take charge of shutting down the ability to be harvested, would you say that the ultimate tool would be to start to see light and dark as the same, and to stop having such a polarized viewpoint of the two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard for people, especially those, they put so much energy into fighting the darkness without realizing that they were creating it.
And Lily, I know we only got about 10 more minutes left here for I know we can go over, but for as far as the 2-hour show that we usually do. And I've been sitting here staring at my sheet, looking at the importance of the 2017 bullet point. Can you touch on that before?
So this is one, because we have right now most of 85% that are kind of stuck in that astral timeline, and they're in denial. In 2017 is about the time when some of the bigger collectives that we have on the planet will start moving into the next stage. They will be moving into a planetary timeline. And a lot of that means, because when a person will be moving out there, it's meaning they'll be moving their consciousness out of their pineal and into the center.
Can you just repeat that? That the 85% who are here to harvest will actually start to move into the planetary timeline anyway.
Not all of them. Some of them will never do. Some of them will take lifetimes. But there's a few big collectives that will, the bigger collectives. Like we have the purple dragons are very small collective here. The green dragons are a huge collective. And if you look at that, where they are, they're right in the middle, so they're most balanced, and that's why they're gonna kind of wake up from that coma first, and some of them already starting to. And then we're gonna have more collectives, and there is one collective that's really big here on the planet, is reds and the gold ones. And those are that will be moving into that, a lot of that collective, well, kind of like tip the scale, but not all the collectives, a few collectives. And that will change a lot of things will change on the planet. In which way? That a lot of people will kind of give up on their astral body and will have the desire to kind of become one with the planet. And we'll see a lot of that movement then. And this is when it's also going to change for a lot of, it's going to be an interesting time, because this planet has not experienced this. There was no revelations here after all those 4 harvests, because this is the last one, and this is why it's happening right now. When people will move into that stage, it will change a dynamic on this planet, because right now, this planetary timeline has a lot fewer people in it. There's only 15% of population that's on it. So when that's going to come, it's going to be a little bit rough, because a lot of people will be in that angry stage. And it's going to be tough, especially for those that for spiritual teachers, and it's going to be tough for governments. There's a lot of going to be that what's going on right now in Europe in some places where people actually using their free will and saying, you know what, we're just going to overthrow the whole government. You know, so a lot of that. So I can't tell exactly how it's going to look like because I can only feel the energy movement.
I was going to say, since we are kind of collectively creating this as we go, isn't everything kind of fluid and subject to change as far as dates and timelines and whatnot?
Yes. And so right now, I thought, 6 months ago, I thought that nobody out of that 85% will be moving anywhere until 2017. But things are changing. So this is not said because the planetary timeline, because it is internal creation, it's not structured, it's not rigid like life creation. It's more like, if I would have to say, or give an example, it's more like a water. It kind of flows with whatever. So the more people we get on it, that probably it's going to be faster. Because once some people from the collective come into the planetary timeline, they act as though as a magnet for other people in their collective.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But what does it look like beyond that? What beyond that shift?
That's going to be just kind of the beginning of maybe visible changes. People will just become a lot more aware of the planet. Right now, we have people that just don't care about the planet. They think that somehow it serves them. They have that. And then when people step on a planetary timeline, they will lose the hierarchy. There's going to be, and then this equality will start trickle in. Okay. But it will take hundreds of years,
Lily,
not thousands, for all the collectives to go through it. And some will not go through it. Some will implode once their astral levels and moon will implode. Or moon might be taken away from here, or it might implode with astral levels. That is just too far that I can't really get a really good feel.
Now, that's a fireworks show I do not want to miss. Watching the moon get taken from the sky. Oh, I can see it now.
But that's going to happen when we are not going to have the illusion. And that's when people, everybody on the planet, will stop feeding the astral beings. Because for as long as people here on the planet will feed the astral beings, and I mean do the visual meditation, do any kind of mental work, mental or pineal gland activations, any prayers that send emotional energy into the astral levels to astral beings. And we know, like with Christians, I mean, it's going to take a long time before they starve those astral beings. So it's going to be a long time. So right now we should concentrate on the short term. And so when you see those people, when I see people going into the next stage, that means movement to me. The planet gets excited. I get excited with the planet that there is actually movement. Because even after all that's been done to this planet, and how she's been ravaged and used and abused by all these things, she never stopped loving anybody for a second. So she's still decided into her.
Hey, Lily, let me ask you real quick, not to change gears here, but a question just got handed to me on a piece of paper by one of the people here listening in, and let me just read it. It says, "Is there a correlation between the dragon colors that you're talking about and the Chinese dragon families? Do you know if there's any association between the two? Because you mentioned red and gold and green."
Yeah.
And black, and that's that.
Dragon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Lily, not to cut you off, but you're breaking up in a really interesting way. It's almost like they don't want you to answer that question. Can you just re-answer that question if you can?
Yeah.
Of course. Of course.
Bill, that would be your answer right there.
Nice work,
Oh man, explained so much.
I just did it, but that in for job and even had read here. So I'm good news.
I'm sorry, Lily. We honestly cannot hear you at all at the moment.
That's your whole entire answer just got completely roboticized, if that's even a word.
Yeah, I mean, look at that. The coordinate the smell is all coordinate with all of this with the other indirect. Everyone and super feel. They do have some kind of bragging frequency, and that's okay.
It's like an order in a drive-through intercom that's no longer working.
Was that the only question on there?
Yeah, that was it.
So I think we should just.
We're gonna have to leave that question answered as it was, which I think is an answer in itself.
And I feel like it was all. And in my, when I do the,
Sweetie, we can't make out a word you're saying. We cannot make out a word you're saying. I tell you what, I'm going to hang up and call you back.
I told her I understand some of your questions, but I feel like I was just over like.
Lily, I don't know if you can hear me. We really can't hear you anymore. So he's going to type in what I'm writing. I know that we are going to get a slew of questions from this, and I'm sure we're going to have to repeat a couple of times probably to get through all of the information. Can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, you can. Great.
Okay.
That last question just. Your entire answer
Because completely garbled.
But don't try and repeat it. Don't
even try and repeat it because obviously it's not supposed to be said.
Yeah, I don't want to lose you again. But I think for now we've covered a lot of ground. But is there anything that you feel is important to put out this first go around that we haven't touched on?
You tell those that feel that they are just because they felt like something's wrong with all the teachers and everything. And it's going to come when each and every one of this person specific thing to do on the plan.
Sweetie, yeah, we're not going to go much further than this, I think. That's okay.
That's okay. I'll see you the next time.
And there's definitely going to be a next time.
Definitely.
We have a lot more questions to ask you, and I know that we're going to get quite a few from listeners and viewers. So we didn't even get through half of what we wanted to get through tonight.
I will say, I came into this incredibly skeptical because I'm always have my guard up for information that's so external to anything that I kind of intuit on my own. And there's a lot that you said in there that resonated, and there's a lot more that was over my head. But I'm interested in having another discussion with you again, and I'm really interested to see what kind of the response comes as a result of this. So we're all grateful, and thank you so much for your time.
Sweetie, we can't hear you at all. One of the other things I wanted to say to you was that okay, sorry. We're going to give you guys a message from her. I wanted to tell people that feel that they are 15% can contact me at my email.
Okay, I'll be emailing you later on this evening.
Okay, thank you so much. Personally, I have been looking into, so has Brian, D a little bit, material from the Wingmakers. I don't know if you're familiar with it. There's so much to go over. Thank you again for joining us, and we will be in touch to organise a time for the next one. So, thanks again.
Thank
Bye
you,
for now.
Lily. Have a great evening, everyone.
Bye, Mom. Thank you, Bill and Winnie, for hosting us.
Yes, thanks, guys.
And giving us water.
I'm going to keep it rolling. I know you're all going to talk.
Oh, man. Did that ever fit with what you got from Mouth Foods? You know, he said that the Empress, they had the Treaty of Risk here.
Treaty of Risk? Yeah.
And then you've got the red dragons, green dragons, gold dragons, black dragons, green dragons. She mentioned the green dragons being the first to convert over. The green dragons of the Muslim world, the Sufis.
The Sufis.
Yeah, and she mentioned they would be the first ones to convert to the new timeline. And that correlates with Kion, who said that the Muslim world would be the first place. You can see the changes happening. And all this stuff is like fitting.
But if Cryon is channeled, isn't all that coming from the astral also?
Well, Cryon, I don't know exactly what Cryon is. And I'm not sure she's right about everything being cut off. I don't believe that because. But
I don't think she meant cut off in the sense. They're not cut off from here. They're cut off from going anywhere else.
Oh,
From going home.
The Divines are absolutely stuck wherever they are right now. It's kind of like, you know, they're stuck in the endless game of Twister.
No wonder they're pissed.
That's it. But here's the interesting thing. I was going to ask, and I thought, oh, this opens such a huge door, is when she talked about that harvesting of energy, and she made a statement, I'm not sure if I heard it correctly, that those from whichever planet they're from, when their energy is harvested, goes directly to their planet.
Yeah.
Right? So when you see
explains
this...
why all the ships from all the planets are here.
It does, but I also looked at that and was like, okay, if you look at that at what we see on a global scale, and if you were to take apart the perceived various groups, whether it's the Illuminati, the Masons, the Vatican, well, they're all one and the same, but what if they represent different planetary orders? And that's why it's the big push, right? Like, I'm sorry,
Like
just
the
before we left...
Dune, and then you got the Mentats.
It's all the different factions or whatever.
And they all got to gather up their own groups, and you got to keep people in there so you can harvest them. So, I mean, just before we left Canada, there was a huge run of advertisements on TV about come back to the Catholic Church, we've changed. And it was like mainstream TV stations were running this, because I'd never seen that before.
We're the good guys now?
Apparently. But if you look at this, it's kind of like you said, all the groups want to pull you in, whether it's, like, you have those who follow your Sheldon Neidl Galactic Federation going up with their Pentagon guys, etc. And then you have those who follow, the violet flame of Saint Germain, and there's this, you've got to send your energy this way. And that's all harvesting, but I wonder if it is indicative of an interplanetary thing even.
It's funny you mentioned that the other Dean too, because that's one woman I was almost repelled by.
Me too.
At first contact, it was like, oh, she gave me the heebie-jeebies, and I could never. I tried. I looked at her material, and I was just like, no, it's not fundamentally wrong for me in this.
It was the energy.
Yeah,
very much so.
So what I didn't understand about that conversation was when she said they're harvesting. Now, when they harvest, do these beings die when they get harvested, or is something coming out of them?
No, we watched a series of videos that she sent to us.
You gotta watch
maybe we can get her permission to actually put the videos, the links to the videos. And they're just little 8-10 minute videos that are like
you just shared.
Yeah, exactly. But they're obviously an ongoing conversation between her and another group. So some of it, there's obviously information missing because it's been already explained in previous conversations. One of the things that she talked about, though, was the fact of the difference in the harvesting. For example, a sudden death is like a big go. But there's also the other harvesting of, like we said, the fear is a continuous harvesting of emotions, the harvesting of anger, the harvesting of even the love of, like we said, send us the adoration. prayers, meditations. It's all anything that's being sent to a specific.
That they're actually little antennas on the roofs of every transmitters.
Yeah.
To do exactly that, to take the
that
gather
energy.
and transmit that.
Well, what happens to the people, to the beings that need that harvested energy if they don't get any? Do they?
That's what she
cease to
said. They
exist?
basically get to the point where they're going to implode.
Well, normally that energy would go back home, literally to home planet. But now, because their ability to send it back to home planet has been severed, now those beings are stuck in the astral, and they're the ones who need to be fed.
Right. So, and then you look at the stuff that we've talked about with like the energy regulators, and they're whole freaking out up there, and the well, of course, because they don't have any energy left to regulate.
Yeah.
How do you control these, even if
they're accountants with no numbers to
It also explains why they have to regulate if they're drawing from a finite source.
Exactly.
Rather than source
no, this one came from that planet. Oh, no, and that one came from this planet, so I got to go up there and add up your tallies. And now it's cut off.
So
it's like end of financial year handing out the shareholders.
The harvesting is
literally.
Okay, with these videos that you guys saw, if they're harvesting, say, sadness or whatever energy, and they harvest that, is it being backfilled by Earth?
No, that's a good question.
What do you mean by backfill?
Like, are we being filled up by the planet for what was taken from us by beings?
No, I don't think so.
No, I don't think so. But we are endless energy, right? So we are not finite. We are infinite energetic beings. So, I mean, you see people who love. The mother of one of my best friends was one of those people. She was never happier than when she was sad. Give her a good disaster to watch on TV, and the tears could pour, and she was absolutely happy to sit there and watch horrible soap operas and disastrous news stories. And she had literally, you could see she thrived on it. So, I mean, there's harvesting right there. Oh, pour out your heart. You should have seen her during 9/11. Oh, my God. But we are infinite energetic beings, so it's not like we have only a finite amount that we can only go, okay, well, here you can have 10%, and then...
Can I get some of yours? Because my tank's almost empty.
Well, that's it. It makes me wonder, is there a creative way that we could provide the energy that needs to be harvested? Can we feed?
I mean, here's what's going to happen.
Can we consciously feed and take care of everyone?
Here's what's going to happen.
But it sounds like part of the absolute plan anyway, but it doesn't.
Yeah, but that is the absolute plan, right? The absolute plan is what is happening now, is that they're all stuck. Those divines are stuck. They can no longer do the stuff that they've been doing. All their plans of continuing the separation are coming to an end.
If it's time for internal creation or source or whatever to breathe in now,
I'll send it to you.
Then everything that's happening is part of that process.
Exactly.
Well, you know
even the divine plan is part of the absolute plan.
You know what's going to happen as a result of people watching this video is they're going to say, 2017 shit!
Yeah, no,
I better stop this individual feeding this harvesting system on my own now, or else I'm going to be perpetuating this for another two years, which isn't really much. But
time is irrelevant. Time is a construct. I don't
I
believe in dates or anything.
Bill shared about Muslim green dragons.
Green dragons and Muslims.
I mean, are we sitting in the pod or what?
Oh, you wanted to know why we're here.
Sheikh Shaman's a big Sufi center.
Oh, is it really? That might explain the difference in the protocols. The protocols are done very differently in Chef Shaman than they are here.
It was apparently up until the 1920s.
Before you go in the camera,
It was closed to
Westerners. Just bring it
Westerners.
to a close.
Yeah.
Because I've let the audio run and the video run, just in case you like this.
Okay.
Tail end chat.
Well,
We have a lot more questions.
Yeah.
A lot more questions.
I'm like a deer in headlights with this light that's shining directly in my face.
I keep seeing little purple spots because of all the
From the
lights.
camera.
Well, yeah, we just say goodbye, and we'll see you soon. We'll see you next week, and with more questions.
Oh, many more questions. No doubt.
Peace from
Bye.
the not so far east.
Bye, guys.
Broadcasting a new paradigm on the One Network.
The dream time. To walk this land, we must walk with its spirits. We must honor their stories, and we must call to them.
At this pivotal time of humanity's evolution, we are beginning to remember our organic technology. A technology, when used correctly, can create an experience that the majority of the people the world over want to live. It is time to use this technology consciously for our own benefit and healing, and no longer unconsciously for our own demise. We are multi-dimensional creators, creating both our own personal experience and our collective